Jyoty, hi! So excited to be here with you today and have this conversation. As a broadcaster, as a DJ, how did it all get started for you?
I basically moved from Amsterdam to London 8 years ago. You know, I got Punjabi Indian parents, so you're not moving unless it's study related or job related. So I did a master's here, and my family doesn't, have the financial resources to support living in an expensive city like London. So I got a part-time job at being a guest list person, a door girl at the Nest. Doing that basically gave me a little bit of an insight to London clubbing from a less touristy or student from abroad kind of perspective. Because I started doing all the doors around East London, I was just ingrained and had all these connections with artists, with managers, agents, and it was very much a genuine friendship I had with these people because I wasn't in music myself. So when one day my friend Ellie asked me to co-host her brand new show on Rinse FM, which was a breakfast show, I thought, well, why not? Did it 3 times. The 4th time she slept in. She just didn't wake up. So I got to the studio by myself, had to take over the whole show, and eventually it became my show. Fast forward loads of years, now I'm DJing. My show has been going on for 5 years. I also left the corporate world that I was full-time working in to become a creative producer for Loud, which was a creative agency within Mixmag. So actually 2.5 years ago is when everything I was doing was in the creative industry.
So what would you say that is the common thread across all these different things that you've done? Is it a case of being persistent? Is it a case of being creative, sticking to your vision? What, if you were to choose one thing, what would you say it is?
I think my common thread is and just to be completely honest, is people every time saw something in me that I didn't think could be true, gave me an opportunity, I grabbed it with both hands and learned on the job and tried to become the best at it. So I kept the job.
So speaking of that sort of journey that you've been through, especially moving from Amsterdam to London, how did it feel like for you as a brown woman in London, as a Punjabi woman in London?
I think for me it was actually quite easy, and this is probably good for me to highlight certain struggles I didn't have. One, I come from a city that is loved by everybody in London, right? Especially in the music industry. When people hear you're from Amsterdam, they love it, they adore it. They want to talk to you about everything that they love about your city, and they don't really understand why you came to London. When it comes to my ethnicity, it's England. There are so many brown people here. If anything, I came from a city where I was the only brown girl in every club I went to. All of a sudden, I was working at a club in London and I was looking at other drunk brown girls in the queue, which was so mind-blowing to me. I'd never seen that before. And it wasn't until I would be by myself on the door in the freezing cold, that's where I felt I fit in and I made all my friends. So in that case, the intersectionalities worked for me because a place like London can be very open and accepting.
I can't help but notice your rise as, an influencer. You're becoming more than, a music or a DJ. You are a personality. People want more from you than just your DJ sets. How does that feel?
I think what we're working on, not as consciously but subconsciously, is me becoming a brand. My mom always said, "Jack of all trades, master of none." And that's not a mean thing. It's very true. I'm not the best at all the things that I do, but I'm good at a lot of things. That's also a safety net. If one thing fails, I want to be able to fall back on other things that I do. And the whole, I guess, influencer or personality thing, that's happened because that was never my focus.
What's one thing that you don't like about being a quote-unquote influencer or building yourself as a brand in that sense?
It's the small amount of negativity that comes with it that you're constantly exposed to, that you felt like you didn't have to get exposed to. Having lived online for a year and only online for a year, I've come to terms with a lot of things, and I could brush it off a lot easier. I could actually brush it off 100%. But I think that's the one thing that I don't like and I will never like. Yeah. It's just the online bullying, this hate that's so easily spread online and on the internet, which is something that, I mean, everyone watching this knows that that comes with the territory, but it's really something that you have to be aware of, that you're gonna have to train yourself to develop thick skin. And I'm very accessible, and I think certain people on the internet have noticed this. You can DM me and I will see it. But at the same time, I do that on purpose because, yeah, I did read the nasty comments of, and let's be honest, 95% of them are men, under my boiler room, and I did reply. And you know what's funny? Every time someone left a really mean and horrible and nasty comment, and when I replied with, oh, I'm sorry you didn't like my mixing, hopefully next year I'll be better, you will be shocked at how friendly the replies back are then, because they didn't think that I would see it and I would say something.
You mentioned that a lot of those negative comments tend to come from men. Tell me more. Let's unpack that a little bit for yourself, whether it's your experience as a woman online or in real life. Do you feel like we're making progress? You know, of course, there will always be challenges. What are those challenges and what's actually getting better?
I mean, we're absolutely 100,000% making progress because we're talking about it. We are amplifying voices. We are giving platforms. We are having uncomfortable conversations. It's all happening. I've experienced all the things that we've heard about, you know, being a girl, being a woman, being a brown woman, but I've also had extremely a lot of privilege and a lot of traumas I haven't experienced, being a lighter-skinned Indian woman, being what is often considered to be a good-looking woman, being not a black woman, being born a woman, being not a trans woman. There are so many things that I haven't had to experience, and I'm very much aware of my privilege as being racially ambiguous, right? I know when I've been picked over someone who's darker skinned, over someone who's gay, over someone who doesn't have my accent, over someone who doesn't have the features that I have physically. The whole excuse of, oh, but at least it's a woman, or oh, at least it's a brown woman, is old. Because now it's like, okay, but where's the dark-skinned woman? Where's the dark-skinned, bigger size woman? Like, these are the things that we're trying to get to now, and I feel like that's my focus. I don't mind dealing with all the not so fun stuff if it means that the girls who are 10 years younger can kind of get an opportunity, get foot in the door and experience less barriers having to talk and voice their problems if we just deal with the mess now.
That's what I used to say at the beginning of my, you know, female empowerment community journey is that if women win, everyone wins. You know, there are numerous studies that show by having your team as diverse as possible, not just from a gender perspective, but the more chances are that your company, organization, project, whatever it is, will become successful or more profitable. So speaking of the real stuff, let's talk about the real allyship and like the real people doing real things. Give me some examples of this kind of legit allyship.
I will say this. The companies and the brands that are at the forefront and who get the most recognition for allyship are actually behind the scenes the least genuine. And I think the real allyship, the real genuine allyship is actually being showed in the more independent labels, the online and DIY radio stations. Actually, the platforms and the brands that are more independent and more less bragged about and celebrated online, Look, when Black Lives Matter happened, a lot of people I know who work for big companies told me that they had a white person come in to do courses on diversity and inclusion, right? I'm sorry. First of all, why do you need a whole course? Explain that to me. And don't you think it's a little bit weird that you have a middle class white person? Nothing wrong. But where does that idea come from? And did you think about it, or was this a panic reaction?
How can we look into the future with positivity? What are some silver linings? What are some positives that are happening and coming out of 2020?
What I've seen is, because we have so much time at home, looking at things and really going into the backstory of people that we've been consuming for a long time and supporting for a long time. Right now, all I'm seeing is, and I'm the living proof of that, the smaller and the mid-tier creators or people or brands or whatever it is that we're talking about, they are building such genuine, strong relationships with people that are gonna catapult their careers once they can DJ again, perform again, put out records again, or whatever it is that people are doing.
And so for someone who's just getting started, you know, I'm thinking about young people who are coming into a completely new world where the old rules just don't apply anymore. What would be your advice for them?
First of all, watch my tips and tricks series. I'm not even trying to plug anything. Don't watch it for me, watch it for yourself. We're 8 episodes in now, there's gonna be 10. And I literally talk about everything from how to create demos, importance of online mixes, managers versus agent, how to invoice, how to do marketing for free, how to grow your community, everything. I talk about all that stuff, and I give you examples of my own career, right? And how I've gone about things. I also tell you that there is no tips or tricks that people can give you that is a guaranteed result. I think the only thing I would want to focus on in this question, in my answer, what I've learned myself in the last 12 months is I can't dictate what people want to hear or see of me. What I can do is, if I know that I like doing Club Jyotiana, which is very up-tempo, just like my request line mixes, but I also like to do You Can Sit With Us, which is an educational webinar series that is all about social, political, and educational and health issues. Those two people often don't overlap, but you need to learn how to find your audience and to integrate on the platforms of those audiences.
Yeah. No, beautiful. It's, again, we keep coming back to this concept of, you know, there is no one way of doing things. All right, wrapping up. Any final thoughts for anyone watching, whether they're a woman identifying person, a young person or an old person trying to get in music?
We're living in a really interesting time right now. And what you have seen is people who failed to adapt and who held on to false hope of things going back to normal, whatever that means for them, have found themselves falling a bit behind and maybe not moving forward as much as they wanted to. This is if you're starting fresh right now, this is your time. If you understand the internet, if you understand the virtual world, grab it with both hands and run with it. Because what this pandemic has done is everything we're doing now was gonna happen anyways. This pandemic has sped it up in tenfold. Think about the forgotten people that weren't able to consume what we were doing before, whether that's slightly older of age, people with children, people with disabilities, people based in certain parts of the world where they don't have the luxury to travel to come and see their favorite artists and DJs, who are now all of a sudden included, right? Because it's all happening online. Think about those people. That's going to be your new community, and that's your tribe that you want to grow, and that's going to make your career catapult. So I would say this pandemic, play it and milk it to the fullest.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jyoty. This has been such a dope chat.
Thank you so much. It was really good.